continues this Thursday from above and inside the hurricane zone. We are getting a more complete picture of the damage left behind by Michael, and it is overwhelming. We have a team of correspondents in the region. We will have extensive coverage once again tonight, beginning with the headlines in 60 seconds.
Florida's Panhandle is one huge disaster zone.
Our lives, everything we have is gone.
It was awful. I was scared.
Houses in the water, cars picked up and dragged or thrown.
You see rooftops, walls, just all pulverized together in a massive debris.
I've never seen no destruction like this.
And the damage left in its wake is still yet to be fully understood.
This area is not going to be back to normal for a long time.
Again, it's not over.
Michael, still a storm moving quickly northeast.
Bringing areas of really heavy rainfall.
Flash flooding ongoing throughout much of North Carolina and Virginia.
A rocket launch failure forced a NASA astronaut and a Russian cosmonaut to make an emergency landing.
Nick Hague and Alexei Ovchinin were rescued without injury.
Social Security just announced a 2.8% benefit increase starting next year.
An extra $39 a month for the average retired worker.
When I put this hat on, it made me feel like Superman.
10 minutes from Kanye West with the president today inside the Oval Office.
If he don't look good, we don't look good. You think racism could control me? He might not have expected to have a crazy like Kanye West run up and support, but best believe we are gonna make America great.
I'll tell you what, that was pretty impressive.
Good evening, I'm Jeff Glor in Panama City, Florida, and this is our Western edition. I am standing in front of what was a local business, but now one of the staggering number of homes and businesses either damaged or destroyed on the Florida Panhandle. The death toll from Michael is rising tonight. Victims have been recovered here in the Florida Panhandle and in Georgia and North Carolina. 11-year-old Sarah Radney was killed by debris that ripped through the roof of her home in southwest Georgia. More than 24 hours now after Michael made landfall on this coast, the scale of the destruction is becoming clear, and it is immense. Have a look at Mexico Beach, 20 miles east of here, before and after the storm. It took a direct hit. Homes and businesses were blasted off their foundations by winds that reached 155 miles an hour and a massive surge of seawater. To fully understand how hard this coast was hit, it is helpful to see it from the sky as we did today. We're going to show you more of that in moments, but we're going to begin with Manuel Bojorquez in East Point, about 60 miles southeast of us.
A view from above Mexico Beach, Florida shows utter devastation. Today, FEMA called this tiny tourist town Ground Zero.
We're in the eye wall.
Michael's 155-mile-per-hour winds decimated homes. Businesses were reduced to piles of scrap metal. Neighboring towns along the Panhandle didn't fare much better.
So we've made it to East Point, Florida, and this is the type of damage that we're seeing around here. Looks like the entire corner of this building was just sheared off.
This is what's left of the gym at Jenks Middle School in Panama City. The roof and walls ripped away. The Hornets volleyball team was scheduled to play their semifinals here yesterday. Roads throughout the Panhandle's coast remain treacherous.
Driving down the road here, you can see some of the pretty big debris that's been scattered about. The semi here that almost looks like it was bent in half and just thrown to the side of the road there.
Block after block littered with debris, fallen trees, and tangled power lines.
This is something you're going to see all over the Panhandle, and that's power crews moving in and out of the area to spots where they're needed to try to get those power lines back up and restore the electricity here. It's going to be a long few days for them.
Today, staff and emergency workers at Gulf Coast Regional Medical Center transported more than 100 patients to regional hospitals, starting with the most critically ill. Back in the hardest hit sections of East Point, today was cleanup day.
That right there, that's the water line.
Keith Millender has lived in this house his entire life, and he's never seen a hurricane quite like this. But he says he also won't let Michael take him away from here.
How do you rebuild?
Time.
Time? Little by little?
Little by little, time.
But this is home. You don't plan to leave.
Oh no, I ain't going nowhere.
Keith's home is just down this highway, Highway 98, which remains largely impassable tonight. And here's why. The storm surge literally ate away entire lanes of this highway. This is what first responders are having to get around tonight, as well as people who are returning home to see what is left. Jeff?
Manny, thanks very much. A huge challenge for those first responders still tonight. As we flew along the coast today for as far as we could see from Panama City to Mexico Beach, harrowing scenes of destruction. Then back on the ground, we visited with some storm victims who have lost so much.
It is a scale of devastation that can truly be understood from the air. We took a helicopter ride to see the scope of the damage.
Look at that house, literally blown off its foundation. This is where the eye wall passed over, and that is why you're seeing the worst of the damage. That is houses in the water. It is cars picked up and dragged or thrown hundreds of yards potentially inland. That's a 100-foot ship that has just been flipped on its side. Some of the damage we're seeing right now reminds you a little bit at times of a tornado when a house is just completely flattened. You're looking at what was a large church in Panama City. Most of the roof has just been sheared right off.
After we landed, we met more of those affected on the ground.
Hi.
Including Muriel Stacy, who just moved here 1 year ago.
So you just moved down here? From Michigan?
Mm-hmm.
And this happened?
Yes.
I'm sorry. So it basically it ripped this whole section right through.
Yeah, but it started that back there. I'm afraid to start cleaning it up and picking it up because more's going to come down.
Muriel still hasn't been able to contact relatives back in Michigan where she moved from to let them know she's okay. We're trying to help her do that, but she is in a very difficult spot tonight, as so many are. We're going to go to Omar Villafranca now, just east of here. You just saw some of Mexico Beach. He was on the ground there where it made landfall.
From above Mexico Beach, a town of more than 1,000 people, it looks like it was hit with a bomb. Row after row of homes were reduced to rubble. Hurricane Michael's 155-mile-per-hour winds and nearly 14-foot storm surge leveled almost everything in its path. We followed first responders as they went door to door for the first time looking for survivors who rode out the hurricane.
Everything else looks intact.
Sounds good. This crew from Louisiana Task Force 1 has worked big storms in the past. And Dan Simon says this catastrophic damage looks familiar.
What we're standing in right now is what Katrina did to New Orleans, especially the lower Ninth Ward.
Just over here, there's some duplexes, homes with foundations, but they were just completely pushed off and wrecked. Matter of fact, the cleanup process is starting over here with these people. This way, this was oceanfront property, and these people took the brunt of Hurricane Michael.
The whole wall was moving back and forth.
Mike Marcial lives in one of the hardest hit areas. He lost everything, but just wants to let his family in California and Colorado know he's alive.
We're okay. We'll call you as soon as we can. We love you. God spared us.
First responders estimate it will take months and for some years to fully recover. But for now, residents say they just need a little help.
Have no jobs, nowhere to go, can't get out, don't have a lot of money. What do you do next?
The debris piles here in Mexico Beach are 15 to 20 feet high, and they are everywhere, and they stretch for miles. And they're blocking many of the main roadways, making it difficult for first responders to get around. Now, FEMA and the National Guard are here, but I talked to several residents who tell me they are overwhelmed. They don't know where they're going to sleep tonight because they don't have a home to go back to. Jeff?
Omar, that is the amazing and saddening part about this. Scenes like that you're seeing for miles and miles down here along the Panhandle. At the height of this storm, Nikki Batiste hunkered down in a shelter in the town of Bristol. That's about 45 miles outside Tallahassee. And she was with residents today as they very nervously returned to their homes.
Deirdre Hawthorne and her family are leaving the shelter where they rode out Hurricane Michael with more than 200 other people.
What's going through your mind right now?
Dread. Hawthorne is returning to the place she's called home in Bristol for the last 18 years.
Oh my God.
We were with her when she saw her house for the first time. Somehow, it still stood beneath this twisted knot of fallen trees. Her daughter Amanda had to find another way into the house. This tree happened to fall the other way, narrowly missing their home. What are you feeling as you come home?
Devastated, scared, happy. We stepped out of home.
But not everyone was so lucky.
Yeah, the storm messed up our house.
Brittany Chambers and her 4-year-old daughter Armani returned home to see firsthand what Michael unleashed. The storm devastated Chambers' entire street and sent this tree straight through her daughter's bedroom. When you look in there, how do you feel inside?
Sad.
Your home is severely damaged. You're alive. What have you lost?
Materialistic things that can be replaced. As long as I have her, this is everything that matters to me in the world.
This entire county has no power, and the local electricity company says they've ordered 300 utility poles to repair downed power lines like this one. They also say they have no idea when the electricity will be restored here. Jeff?
Not many people do at this point. Nikki, thanks. The storm is moving north tonight. Flash flood and tornado watches and warnings are posted in the Carolinas and Virginia. The storm is expected to move out to sea tomorrow. Other news tonight, there was a special guest in the Oval Office today. Kanye West said he wanted to have a few words with the president. He did, including our Major Garrett was there to watch.
He might not have expected to have a crazy like Kanye West run up and support, but best believe we are going to make America great.
With that Oval Office obscenity, rap superstar Kanye West described to President Trump the cosmic effect his presidency had on his psyche.
It was something about when I put this hat on, it made me feel like Superman. You made a Superman. That's my favorite superhero.
West and Hall of Fame football player Jim Brown were at the White House to discuss criminal justice reform and other issues with the president. West, a Chicago native, questioned Mr. Trump's support of the police practice known as stop and frisk.
We feel that stop and frisk does not help the relationships in the city.
I'm open-minded. I'm here.
Earlier this year, West's wife and reality TV star Kim Kardashian successfully lobbied the president to commute the sentence of a woman convicted of a federal drug offense. At today's meeting, the president, by turns, appeared perplexed, pleased, and amused.
How does it feel to be in the Oval Office?
Oh, it is good energy in this.
West has left an impression on previous presidents, saying this about George W. Bush after Hurricane Katrina in 2005.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
And after West grabbed a microphone from Taylor Swift at an awards ceremony, President Obama was caught on an open mic saying this.
The young lady seems like a perfectly nice person. She's getting her award. What's he doing?
Why would he do that?
He's a jackass.
West said the president was on his, quote, hero's journey, and the rapper appeared to be delighted to be along for the ride. Possibly for the first time in his presidency in the Oval Office, the president appeared speechless, saying at one point, that was quite something. Jeff?
All right, Major, thank you very much. Coming up next year on the CBS Evening News, an explosion on board a Soyuz rocket had everyone fearing the worst for the crew. The only vehicle that can currently take crews to the space station has been grounded after a Russian Soyuz rocket malfunctioned today just after launch. The 2 crew members survived a jarring return to Earth. Mark Strassman is following this.
And there is liftoff of the Soyuz MS-10.
2 minutes after liftoff, trouble. Inside the capsule, something jostled American astronaut Nick Hague and Russian cosmonaut Alexei Ovchinin. An unexplained rocket malfunction triggered an automatic mission abort, something to do with this debris you see falling away from the rocket. The cruise capsule ejected from the rocket at 4,700 miles per hour, falling more than 30 miles safely to Earth in the middle of Kazakhstan. Space Station Operations Manager Kenny Todd.
We have every confidence that our Russian colleagues will figure out what's going on, and we'll hopefully see Nick and Alexei on orbit and at the space station again soon.
Today's mishap comes 7 years after the space shuttle fleet was retired. Ever since, NASA has paid the Russians for rides to the space station. 2 U.S. companies, SpaceX and Boeing, are now building a new generation of American space taxis. Both hope to launch crewed flights next summer, and the clock is ticking. America's Soyuz contracts with the Russians end next July.
This is the Upper Dome.
Earlier this week, program manager John Mulholland gave us a tour of Boeing's Starliner assembly plant at the Kennedy Space Center.
Do you feel under the gun now to make it happen?
We expect as a team to meet that schedule, but schedule pressure is never going to get in the way of making sure we have a safe vehicle to fly.
You want to get it right.
Have to.
The 3 crew members on the space station right now have a Soyuz capsule docked there to bring them back. But if the Russians can't clear a Soyuz rocket to fly up a replacement crew by January, the station may have to be abandoned, Jeff, at least temporarily.
Mark Strassman, thanks. Up next here tonight, what is behind the Dow's biggest 2-day loss since February? The sell-off on Wall Street continued today, giving the Dow its biggest 2-day loss since February. Since hitting a record high last week of 26,828, the Dow is off more than 6.5%. Investors are worried in part about interest rate hikes meant to keep inflation in check. Today, President Trump criticized those hikes again, saying the Federal Reserve is, quote, out of control. The president also said today the U.S. is working with Turkey and Saudi Arabia to find out what happened to Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. The Washington Post contributor was last seen 9 days ago entering the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. Turkish TV showed images of what it called a Saudi hit squad flown in allegedly to murder Khashoggi, a critic of the Saudi regime. One intelligence official told CBS News the Saudis may have planned to bring Khashoggi back to Saudi Arabia, but it's unclear what happened inside the consulate. Prosecutors in New York today dropped one of 6 criminal sex assault charges against Harvey Weinstein, the disgraced movie mogul. That's after they learned a detective had coached a witness to keep quiet about evidence that cast doubt on the story told by one of Weinstein's accusers. Up next here tonight, an unlikely track star. He just does it. We end here tonight with an inspiring 20-year-old athlete. He is following in the footsteps of Tiger Woods, Serena Williams, and LeBron James in a pair of Nikes. Here's Carter Evans.
Here he comes. For Justin Gallegos, running seemed like an impossible dream. He was born with cerebral palsy, a neurological disorder that affects coordination and muscle movement.
Initially, when he started running, he was falling, and he'd have bloody knees, and 90% of the time he'd pick himself up and we'd finish the run.
Justin's dream wasn't just a run, but run fast. Despite his disability, he can do a 7-minute mile and now competes with the University of Oregon Running Club. All that put him on Nike's radar. This past weekend, at the end of a practice run, a company representative made a surprise announcement. Justin would be signed as an official Nike professional athlete.
I'm still kind of in shock that it actually happened.
On Instagram, he wrote, "You don't realize how realistic your dreams are until they play out before your very eyes."
I've never seen him that emotional. No. Running really kind of opened up the doors for him. You know, it gave him the opportunity to be on a team, to have friends, to be a part of something.
As the moment sinks in, Justin's reaction says it all.
It's been quite a ride, and it's only quite literally the beginning.
And he plans to keep making great strides through sheer will and determination. Carter Evans, CBS News, Los Angeles.
That is the CBS Evening News for tonight. I'm Jeff Glor in Panama City, Florida. We leave you tonight with the aftermath of Hurricane Michael. Good night. We'll see you tomorrow.